Okay, so welcome to the very, very first episode of Wiki Wiki What? We're a random knowledge podcast where you'll probably learn something, whether you like it or not. My name is Dana.
My name is Chris.
And I'm Jake, and this show is about finding random articles on Wikipedia that we find interesting, learning about them, and then seeing where the rabbit hole takes us.
Yeah, just talking about it.
Talking
Now,
about things.
As you know, Wikipedia can be edited by anyone, and some of the information may be entirely incorrect.
Yeah, what you guys remember in high school, your high school teacher would literally not allow Wikipedia to be used as a source?
Yeah,
like,
so
nope,
I just didn't cite it.
you can't use it. Can't use it.
Cite it.
I would just say that it was written by a professor whose last name was Pedia. I never got away with it.
Never got away with it.
Anyway.
Yeah, so to start, we're going alphabetically. Being the first episode and all, we decided to start with the letter A.
Yeah, so we've all picked articles that start with the letter A that we're going to talk to each other about and learn about. Yeah.
All right, so I think what we should do is we should kind of do a little teaser for what our article is going to be, and then we can kind of fight amongst each other and see who's going to have to go first.
Okay.
I nominate D to go first.
I'm always first. All right, so the preview for my article is the following quote from a popular Disney movie. And that quote is, "But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name."
Ah, we all had to learn that song in 4th grade. I remember this. It's from Pocahontas.
Yeah, and you had to do like choreography to it.
Oh, I know what your article is now.
No, you don't.
It's Alan Tudyk.
No, it's not.
Okay. Jake, would you like to tease yours?
Sure. So mine is also a person, is a British doctor, a dietetic reformer, and a businessman.
Oh, that's also Alan Tudyk.
That's Alan Tudyk.
And so for mine, I'm just gonna do this.
Serpens indicus biblinus anaconda zelenibus, ads bubble or amelia rumque humentorum membra contorans.
Yeah, I did not get a single bit of that.
I got nothing.
I'm doing it on Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk.
Okay, well, I'm inclined to go with Chris's because I have no idea what the hell happened.
I told you what it is.
No,
Let's do
you
it.
didn't tell us at all. So maybe tell us it in more direct terms.
All right, I'll go first. So, I was jumping around trying to pick what I wanted to do, and I kind of ended up settling on the anaconda. So the anaconda, it's one of the largest snakes in the world. They reside exclusively in South Africa. That bit of Latin that I played at the beginning is, I'll get to that in a bit, but it's,
okay.
I was trying to learn how to say that.
Right.
And I'm going to attempt it in a bit.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So, the name anaconda is often used there. It's like a family of snakes, but it's often used just when people speak about the green anaconda or the Eunectis marunus. It's the largest snake in the world by weight, but the second largest by length. All right, so there's some other anacondas that are listed. There's the Eunectis notius, the yellow anaconda, which is small. There's the Eunectis Dachshundseed.
Dachshund?
I think that's it.
I'm making up.
That was
these
it. That
pronunciations.
had to be the
and that is the dark spotted anaconda. Mm-hmm. And then so I wrote stuff down, and I'm trying to read like scientific like Latin words in my handwriting, and I'm realizing this is a huge mistake. And then there's the Eunectus benignis.
So am I to understand that you have, it's 2016, it's current year,
Well, I use pen and paper.
and you have a computer box,
I have it right in front of my face.
but you wrote it on like a legal pad.
Yeah, I did exactly that. And also this legal pad has like a little smear of like oil on it, and I'm not sure where that came from.
Right.
That's not oil.
The other thing is that I also, on this computer in front of me right now, I have the tab open that I could read from, but I'm not going to. Carrying on. That's the Bolivian anaconda, which is the most recently defined species. And it said about that one in particular, most of them are found like all over South America. The Bolivian anaconda is found, it says, found in departments of Beni and Pando in Bolivia. And my only understanding of that could be that there's a department store named Beni and Pando. And snakes either work at them or live in it. I'm not sure. And
That's
then there's
all it says?
yeah, it says found in departments of Beni and Pando in Bolivia, and I was like, well, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
It also lists, even though they aren't technically real, the giant anaconda, which is like the mythical idea of the snake.
And that's what the movie was based on.
Oh, we'll get there.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, the let me first go into the etymology of the word anaconda, because it was very confusing and seemed to be just needlessly difficult. So the South American names Anecocoa and Anacoona were suggested in an account by Peter Martyr de Anguira.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How much of your article is stuff you can't pronounce?
Oh, I'm gonna say a hard 80%.
Okay. I just wanted to know what I was getting into.
Oh, yeah.
You still rolled with it.
And all of these are handwritten down, so get ready for that.
Right.
So that's the South American origin, and it was questioned later by Henry Walter Bates, who traveled through South America and said, "Hey, no one's saying those words. I don't believe this." So Henry Walter Bates was apparently just an asshole.
Yeah.
Then the word anaconda itself is actually derived from the name of a snake from Sri Lanka that John Ray described in Latin in his 1693 book Synopsis Methodica Animalium. And that's when he described it as, and this is, I'm going to go for this Latin long word,
Oh my God.
as Serpens Indicus Bubalinus Anaconda Zelunibus Ides Bubalorum Aliorum Junatorum Membra Contrans.
Rolls right off the tongue.
So I had the little thing like speaking that to me the whole time, and the robotic way that the computer spoke to me, it just sounded like a spell from Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Right.
So I'm going to say it again as if I'm casting a spell.
Okay.
Serpens Indicus Bubalinus Anaconda Zelunibus Ides Bubalorum Aliorum Junatorum Membra Contrans.
Wow, that sounded really dark.
Can we get some sound effects in there with that? I heard the wind whipping up, but let's get some lightning?
Could you just add visual effects?
Yeah.
To an audio pod?
Yeah, make it like launch Windows Media Player.
Make them all the lines that it's just supposed to be music, but it's lines.
Yes.
Get out of here, Windows. All right, so that guy got all of those that long list of Latin words. He built that off of a catalog of snakes that he got from another guy. And basically what it was there were some records of snakes that were known for crushing large animals by coiling and crushing their bones. And then the word kind of became popular. They started using anaconda, and they described a tiger being crushed and killed by an anaconda, but tigers don't exist in Sri Lanka. So, everything about it was, proven false, because they're talking about anacondas being in Sri Lanka, even though they're only in South America. And kind of like now they're trying to like back off it and be like, yeah, they were just talking about pythons, but science and old dummies.
Right.
Yeah, so basically everyone was just lying about anacondas all the time.
And then the actual like the actual just anaconda, the word comes from it's Tamil origin, not a Tamil orange. And it was Annie, or Anai, and then Kondra, which was Kondra, which literally means elephant killer.
So I'm learning a lot about anacondas right now. Well, I don't know if I'm learning so much about anacondas as I am the fact that like explorers will just like write some shit down.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true. Like they will just straight lie in a journal to everyone.
And then another guy will say like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm going to travel through South America, and no one's saying those words. And then he says,
I'm just going to go around based on a lie because it's that time in history.
There's also, what was it? There's a Senegalese man also pointed out that the word henna-kondra means, henna breaks down into meaning lightning or large, and kondra meaning stem or trunk. So they are the lightning trunks.
Yeah. That's the team from Georgia, right?
Yeah, the Georgia Lightning Trunks. Those state teams. You guys are good at sports.
I think it's a college team.
Oh, the Georgia Lightning Trunks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about them. They have a big rivalry with the Roll Tide.
Yeah, they went like 0-100.
So one of the things, like obviously about anacondas, people are they're constrictors and their size is like kind of the biggest interesting thing.
Right.
About them.
I just picture literally the biggest snake I've ever seen.
That's probably correct.
No, it's the second longest but heaviest. Don't exaggerate.
I did zero research into what was the first longest because that's not my style.
Right, that's what I want to hear.
But the problem with determining the size of the anacondas is it's incredibly difficult because they're just very long muscles. So, like, generally to measure them, they'll have to either have it dead or segmented or stuff like that. So the reports are pretty all over the place. The Guinness Book of World Records has said that this species is perhaps subject to the most extreme size exaggerations of any living animal. But they're...
Are you talking about like people are just like, yeah, it was totally like 60 feet long?
That and then there's also scientific problems with it where, like, in order to stretch them out and measure them, they usually have to find a deceased one, and then if it's deceased, they so the animal basically it grows continually through its lifespan. So the older it is, the larger it will be, and the problem is they're not sure if the larger ones go kind of become reclusive as they like their life start winding down, so you never find the remains of them because they'll live in caves and stuff. But what was the name of this guy? There was a zoologist named Alphys Hyatt Verrill who was leading an expedition team through the jungles of I think Bolivia, and they come up on it's a large anaconda that's curled up on a rock, and he's like, all right, everybody, I want you to estimate the length of this snake.
100 feet.
That's guess number one. The team's guesses they ran from 20 feet to 60 feet, and then they killed it and measured it, and it was only 19 feet long.
Wow, that guy that said 60 was way off. Don't take him to the carnival.
I have a feeling that like the amount of fright, like the amount of anxiety you're going through at the time, probably has some sort of factor on what you guess to perceive the.
So like the person who guessed like real close was like a badass. It was like Stone Cold Steve Austin was on this expedition.
Exactly. Like they have their wits about them, so they're able to make a more concise guess.
Right, and the guy that said 60 was probably like, oh my god, I hope we don't get this snake.
Pooped myself.
So like almost all of the specimens that have ever been publicized or recorded that are in excess of 19 and a half feet, and this is including one that was publicized that was 37.3 feet in length, they have no voucher specimens or skins or bones.
So it was a lie again. Why do people keep lying about this snake?
Yeah. So the science gets very difficult about this, but there's been like the skin of a specimen has been found, and it was actually 32.8 feet long. But then that results in another problem because they actually assumed that the snake was only 24 feet long. Because what they will do is after they've skinned the animal, as the skin is drying, they'll actually stretch it so that they can kind of get a little more publicity.
So it's just this full of inaccuracies.
It is. There's also a geologist who killed a large anaconda and measured it, which, number one, geologists maybe don't go around killing snakes, but whatever.
That's not your job, right?
Yeah, but he killed it and he measured it using a 4-meter-long rod, and he reported it as being 3 rods long, which was 39.4 feet long. But the information, it wasn't published until many years later, and then the geologist later said, maybe I misremembered. Maybe it was only 2 rods long.
2, 3, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Because the word rod makes a whole lot of sense to the layman.
Yeah, this guy was a treat of a man.
Yeah.
So basically there's like all these just records of differing size, and no one can kind of get the kind of correct information on it because they're reclusive wild animals. So the other interesting thing about them is they hunt in the waters. So they're generally they'll only be feeding on fish and birds, but they will take in mammals that are by the riverbeds. So very often they have capybaras and deers and tapirs like inside of them, and they're also found often with caimans, which are those kind of like alligator,
right,
like river alligators.
Yeah, they're like little alligators.
Yeah. So anacondas, dangerous. Don't be by them in the water. And then as far as captivity, there's a little blurb of this article that says, you may reasonably maintain an average and acceptable temperature for the snake with the use of a heating element or infrared light bulbs.
Yeah.
So it's just like for some reason they are thinking like, yeah, if you happen to come across an anaconda and decide to keep it as a pet, here's how to keep it alive. And then just
never mind the fact that you don't have like a tank that could ever support the size of an anaconda.
Yeah, I don't have a tank that's 3 rods long.
But just below that article, then it goes into talking about anacondas in captivity and how they kind of like don't survive ever.
Yeah, I can't imagine like.
Yeah, they need to roam. They're a kind of a nomadic, nocturnal like animal, so they have to be on the hunt and on the move. But that's not going to stop people from catching them and putting them in things.
Okay.
So that's my wrap up on the anaconda proper, and now I'd like to go into the film series Anaconda.
Oh, it was a series.
And yes, exactly. I had
no idea that there was multiple movies.
So let me, I will read you the short synopsis of each of the movies, and then I'll kind of go into a little detail about the first one. So Anaconda, the original, is a 1997 movie. And it is a documentary crew traveling through the Amazon jungle picks up a stranded man. They are unaware of the trouble that will occur. This stranger's hobby is to capture the giant anaconda snake, and plans to continue targeting it on their boat by any means necessary. And I just think that is one of the most poorly written sentences I've ever come across.
It's awful.
Yeah, it excites me that this is the quality of people who have decided to invest the time to write about the Anaconda movie.
Millions of dollars based on that sentence.
Mm-hmm. And then the second movie is Anaconda's The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, and that was a 2004 movie, and a scientific expedition sets out for Borneo to seek a flower called the blood orchid, which could grant longer life. Meanwhile, they run afoul of snakes and each other.
Each other?
Yeah, so they're getting lazier. And then Anaconda 3, Offspring, 2008 movie, a team of mercenaries join forces with what's this word? Herpetologist? Yeah. Herpetologist? Is that a snake doctor?
Reptiles.
Yeah, there you go. And an assistant from the billionaire owner who both worked in a genetic research lab, Waxel Hall, to capture the snakes after they escaped from the lab.
Okay, so this seems to be a trend in monster movies, as there's always one iteration of the franchise where there's some asshole billionaire that doesn't know what's going on. That's like, yeah, let's go on a safari, or let's do this thing. I'm a rich guy.
Yeah. Or the genetic research lab portion where it's
Right.
the same thing as Jurassic World, where they were
It's
just like,
exactly the same
hey,
thing.
let's make a mega dinosaur.
Now, hold on just a brief moment. You said in Anaconda 2 they went to Borneo
Yes.
and they had trouble with anacondas?
Yes.
But Borneo's in Asia, and you were just telling that anacondas are only in South America?
Yeah, I don't think they care about facts.
So you think they didn't even, like, search for, like, a second to
I think
find
they
out?
searched and read like the first third of it where they talked about how they were thinking all these anacondas were in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, and they were like, that sounds right.
They were like, that has to be true.
So what you're
Right.
telling me is our podcast should have existed
In
far before now.
2004, yeah.
Right, right.
Okay, and then the fourth movie, Anaconda's Trail of Blood. It's a 2009 movie.
Sounds ominous.
And a herpetologist is on a mission to destroy the blood orchid from the billionaire who wanted a serum to cure until a dangerous snake threatens everyone.
as you do.
That was also a really poorly written sentence.
Wait, is that really what it says?
Yeah, a herpetologist is on a mission to destroy the blood orchid from the billionaire who wanted a serum to cure, comma, until a dangerous snake threatens everyone.
I feel like some words are missing
Yeah,
out of this.
that doesn't sound like a full sentence. Like,
It sure isn't.
this is on IMDb.
Yeah, no, this is on the Wikipedia for the Anaconda film series.
Right, like, okay, yes.
And this is then there was a fifth movie, which is a crossover movie,
Oh my god.
Lake Placid versus Anaconda,
That was the one
Versus,
with the
the giant alligator.
alligator. Yeah.
versus is in the title.
Yes. It's a Lake Placid vs. Anaconda.
Okay.
Who wins?
In Clear Lake, Maine, an accident between the deadliest creatures have been generated and escaped. What?
Man, who wrote these sentences?
Now a town sheriff and wildlife officer find themselves to save a group of sorority girls from a battle between snakes and crocodiles.
Dude, tell me the truth. Did you go into this Wikipedia article and just delete random words?
I promise I didn't.
He just hit edit and smashed his keyboard.
I didn't. I wish I did. So I'll go into a little bit about the first movie. Not about its plot per se, because I wouldn't want to spoil for anyone. So get out there and watch it. But it's starring Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Owen Wilson,
Oh my god.
Eric Stoltz, and John Voight.
Love it.
So it's got a fairly
All-star
respectable
cast.
Yeah.
Super all-star.
Like I it's nothing to shake a stick at. Like this is not
I
too
knew
bad.
I knew like a couple of those names easy.
I only said the people you should know.
Yeah.
So they're they're on a boat. They're looking for stuff. They're actually like researching. I think what were they doing? They were trying to like follow an Indian tribe. Yeah, they're making a documentary about a long lost Indian tribe, and then they come across a stranded man that they're like, oh yeah, this guy in the middle of the Amazon. That ought to be okay.
Yeah.
Shenanigans happen. So the reception, it received generally negative reviews upon its release, but some critics did praise the
I
film's.
can't see why.
They praised the film's scenery, the effects, and the tongue-in-cheek humor. But many criticized the acting and the forgettable or cardboard characters. Inaccuracies were also a problem for some critics, and a boring start.
For some
But-
critics. All of the herpetologist critics are like,
But to be fair, this could be just somebody being very mean, because at the end of that sentence, it does have a little link that says, citation needed. Seems to be...
That's what you want to see.
Yeah, it seems to be mostly just somebody's opinion. So that's it on Anacondas.
I feel like I learned a lot about snakes and
John Voight's love
I
life.
feel like I learned a lot about how much people lied about anacondas and the discovery of anacondas and the length of anacondas and anything related to anacondas.
I think it was like
They're
a
not even
time.
snakes.
It was a time in science where like they were trying to just classify and catalog large things first,
Yep.
and so there was a lot of inaccuracies.
It's the
'cause I
whole
think it started
mentality
super
of going general to specific.
early.
Right.
Exactly.
it was back in the day. You could just shoot from the hip. That's what science was about.
All right, who's next? What are we doing?
What
right.
was yours?
Oh, yeah, tease again. I'll decide.
Tease me.
But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life.
Oh, yeah, Pocahontas. Yours is Alan Tudyk. And Jake?
Mine was a British doctor, dietetic reformer, and businessman.
I think I know what Jake's is, so I'm going to say Dana should go next.
There's no way you know what mine is.
I think I might.
If you do, I'll be so impressed.
Okay, I'm going to write it down,
Okay.
what I think it is.
All right. So my topic is animism.
Oh.
Not sure if you guys have heard of animism or not.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
primitive form of religion.
Right. So animism is the worldview that non-human entities, such as animals, plants, and inanimate objects, possess a spiritual essence. Animism is used in the anthropology of religion as a term for the belief system of some indigenous tribal peoples, especially prior to the development of organized religion. Although each culture has its own different mythologies and rituals, animism is actually said to describe the most common foundational thread of indigenous people's spiritual or supernatural perspectives. The animistic perspective is actually so fundamental and so mundane and so everyday, if you will, that most animistic indigenous people do not even have a word in their languages that corresponds to animism. It's just
that's
what
the
they
way
do.
it is.
right. It's the term itself is actually completely an anthropological construct. We created it to describe exactly what this is.
To describe all those weirdos talking to rocks.
Exactly. So there's been differing opinions on whether animism refers to a full broad religious belief or if it's a full-fledged religion in its own right. The currently accepted definition of animism was actually only developed in the late 19th century by someone named Sir Edward Tyler. And he created it as, quote, one of anthropology's earliest concepts, if not the first. And in his 1871 book, Primitive Culture, he defined it as, quote, the general doctrine of souls and other spiritual beings in general.
That could not be worded more boringly.
According to Tyler, animism often included a belief that natural objects other than humans have souls. In the eyes of an animist, the actions of non-human animals are completely viewed as intentional, planned, and purposive. And, they're understood to be persons because they are both alive and communicate with others.
And can communicate with others?
Mm-hmm. So one modern example that I have of an animist understanding of purposive animal behavior was actually an occurrence at a powwow held by the Con River Mi'kmaq. They're a First Nations people in Canada. So in 96, an eagle flew over the proceedings, circling over their central drum group, and the assembled participants called out to it kitpu, or eagle, that conveyed a welcome to the bird and expressed pleasure at its beauty, and they later articulated the view that the eagle's actions reflected its approval of the event and the Mi'kmaq's return to traditional spiritual practices.
Well, what did the eagle do? Did it land?
Yeah,
Hang
it said
out
it
with them,
landed
or
and said, "Totally cool with what you guys
did
are
it wink
doing.
at him?
Continue."
He dropped his 12-pack of Natty Ice that he had with him.
Yep. So, in some other instances, animists believe that interaction with plant and fungi can actually result in the communication of things unknown. In fact, among some modern pagans, for instance, they actually cultivate relationships with specific trees who are understood to bestow knowledge or physical gifts such as flowers, sap, or wood that can be used in firewood or to fashion a wand. In return for this, these pagans, they give offerings to the tree itself, which can come in the form of libations of mead or ale, or a drop of blood from a finger, stuff like that. So either you get the tree drunk, or
Or bleed on it.
That's a classic gift. I love it when my friends give me blood.
So, going back to Sir Edward, he actually believed that animism represented the earliest form of religion, but after a whole lot of time had passed, and due to its extremely close relation to the natural world, Ultimately, it led to humanity rejecting religion altogether in favor of scientific rationality.
Oh.
So, for Tyler, animism was basically seen as a mistake or a basic error from which all religion grew.
Sorry, this guy's just such like a nihilist.
Exactly. So, all religion grew from literally a mistake.
And then these foolish people talk to plant.
He didn't actually believe that animism was inherently illogical, but he suggested that it arose from early humans' like dreams and visions. And so, while being a rational system, it was based on erroneous, unscientific observations about the entire nature of reality. He wanted to describe this phenomenon as spiritualism. However, he decided against it upon recognizing that it would cause complete confusion with the modern religion of spiritualism, which was prevalent across all Western nations across his own time, like during his own time. So he decided against that.
That's probably a wise choice for the time.
Tyler's definition of animism was part of a growing international debate on the nature of primitive society, and it was discussed by lawyers, theologians, philologists, and this debate actually completely defined and started the field of research of a new kind of science, anthropology.
Hey, guy.
So thanks, Sir Edward Tyler, for kicking off anthropology.
He did it.
So I've got some examples of animistic societies, just a couple of them that I got from the page. The Moon is a traditional polytheistic, animist, shamanistic religion of the Lepcha people. The basis of this is naturally occurring spirits are an object of ceremonial dedication, and they reside in objects such as trees, rocks, and rivers. In the 7th century, Buddhism actually came and took over in their neck of the woods and became the prime religion, but they still practice it alongside the Buddhism to this day.
Did you just refer to it as the Buddhism?
Did I?
I think so.
So another example of animistic societies is probably something you guys know about, the New Age movement.
Yes.
It commonly demonstrates traits in asserting the existence of nature spirits. The New Age is a term applied to a range of spiritual or religious beliefs and practices that developed in Western nations during the 1970s. So basically the hippie movement.
Yeah, thanks, Don Draper.
Wait, what did John Draper have to do with it?
You haven't seen the last season of Mad Men?
I haven't yet.
He quits his job to become a shaman.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, no, but then he gets inspired to make the greatest ad campaign ever. It sounds like we're playing a trick on you, but we're not.
Everything is about the money, right?
Yeah. That's the whole thing, is like he finally embraces like his like spirituality, and then he like is inspired and then leaves to to make more money.
So the New Age movement actually got its roots in the occultist current that kind of developed in the 18th century. A number of mid-20th century influences, such as UFO religions of the 1950s, the counterculture of the 1960s, and the human potential movement also exerted a huge influence on the early development of the New Age movement. In the New Age movement, theologically, there is a strong emphasis on the spiritual authority of the self. This is accompanied by a common belief that a wide variety of divine non-human entities, such as angels and masters, with whom humans can communicate, particularly through the form of channeling. Not really sure how you channel, but that's what they did.
I know that in Dungeons and Dragons, you have to like concentrate on spells, and you can't take other actions.
Right.
So
You
I
have
think
to,
it's probably like that.
for a particular amount of time, you have to channel the spell.
Don't take damage, because you'll have to take a con check.
So a common New Age belief is that once humanity lived in an age of great technological advancement, and spiritual wisdom. It's actually entered a period of spiritual degeneracy, which would be remedied through the establishment of a coming Age of Aquarius.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that on Coast to Coast lately. They say the veil is getting thin.
And that's where the movement gets its name.
All right.
So I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. As soon as I read the words UFO religions, I got completely uninterested in animism.
This is the correct choice you've made.
I dove completely into UFO religions. So do you guys want to hear about that?
Yes, please.
All right, so a UFO religion is any religion in which the existence of extraterrestrial entities operating unidentified flying objects, UFOs, are an element of belief. Typically, adherents of such religions believe that ETs to be interested in the welfare of humanity, which either already is or eventually will become part of a pre-existing ET civilization.
All right.
So this is the foundation of the Ancient Aliens show, right? And also the fourth Indiana Jones movie?
Pretty much. Some adherents believe that the arrival or rediscovery of alien civilizations, technologies, and spirituality will enable humans to overcome current ecological, spiritual, and social problems. So things like hatred, war, bigotry, poverty, and so on are basically said to be resolved through the use of superior alien technology and spiritual abilities.
Yeah, man, you gotta go clear.
Oh, that was also the plot of Watchmen, the comic.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. The aliens showed up and the Cold War ended.
We had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
So, do you want to hear about some notable UFO religions?
Uh-huh. I want to see if you can name one I'm not familiar with.
Well, I chose some of the most interesting ones to me.
Okay.
There were actually more than I wanted to actually admit. The first one I looked at was the Aetherius Society.
Oh.
The Aetherius Society was founded in the United Kingdom in 1955. Its founder, George King, claimed to have been contacted telepathically by an alien intelligence called Aetherius, who represented an, quote, interplanetary parliament.
Like the Star Wars prequels. How those were all about Parliament.
Oh, so boring. According to Aetherians, their society acts as a vehicle through which, quote, cosmic transmissions of advanced metaphysical significance, end quote, can be disseminated to humanity. Another one that I found out about was Heaven's Gate, which you guys are probably familiar with.
Yeah, that was local.
Yeah, so Heaven's Gate, they were a group that achieved their notoriety in 1997 when founder Marshall Applewhite convinced 38 followers to commit mass suicide.
Mm-hmm. Got to get those Nikes.
Members reportedly believed themselves to be aliens awaiting a spaceship that would arrive with the comet Hale-Bopp.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was 1997. I was in seventh grade.
I saw that comet.
I did
too. I for sure, like, in my memory, always associated that with Halley's Comet, just because, I don't know why.
That was the only comet you'd ever heard of.
Yeah, but, like, now hearing that it was the comet Hale-Bopp.
Right, because who ever heard of that one before?
Come on, get out of here with this silly comet name.
The suicide was undertaken in the apparent belief that their souls would be transported onto the spaceship, which they thought was hiding behind the comet. Mm-hmm. They underwent elaborate preparations for this trip, including purchasing and wearing matching shoes.
Yep. I think they were Nike Cortezes that were black.
Uh-huh. And living in a darkened house to simulate the long journey they expected to have in outer space.
Isn't that what NASA does right before the astronauts are sent up? They make them just like live in a dark house?
They all put on the same shoes and live in a dark house. The next one I have here is Raelism. The international Raelian movement has been described as the largest UFO religion in the world. Raelians believe that scientifically advanced extraterrestrials known as Elohim created life on Earth through genetic engineering, and that a combination of human cloning and mind transfer can ultimately provide eternal life. Past religious teachers like Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad are said to have been sent by these scientifically advanced extraterrestrials to teach humanity. the Elohim are said to be planning a future visit to complete their revelation and education of humanity. So I am looking forward to that day.
It's like someone like heard the idea of like reincarnation and was like, that sounds cool, but like, how would you actually do that with science? Mm-hmm. What a nutbag.
And the final one that I have is everyone's favorite, Scientology.
There it is. That's the gem.
There it is.
Easy.
So Scientology is all about stories of extraterrestrial civilizations and interventions in past lives. It's the huge belief system of Scientology. The most well-known story that's actually publicized and held up to ridicule by critics is that of Xenu,
Yes.
the ruler of the Galactic Confederacy, who is said to have brought billions of frozen people to Earth 75 million years ago and placed them near a number of volcanoes and dropped hydrogen bombs into those volcanoes, thus killing the entire population in an effort to solve overpopulation.
Yep. And I believe
Why
that
didn't they just dump them all in space?
their spaceships were all like B-2 bombers or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh boy.
The spirits of these people were then captured by Xenu and mass implanted with numerous suggestions and then packaged into clusters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Scientology, it teaches that all humans have experienced innumerable past lives, including lives in ancient advanced societies such as Heliotrobus and the Marcabians, whatever that means. Traumatic memories from these past lives are actually said to be the cause of many present-day physical and mental ailments. So, if you're having a headache,
It's the Negatrons, right?
it's the negatrons from your past alien life.
Yeah. I hate it when Megatron gives me headaches.
Scientologists also widely believe that human beings possess superhuman powers which cannot be restored until they have been fully rehabilitated as spiritual beings through the practice of auditing.
Yeah, they have special gear that you have
What's
to
the machine
have.
called?
Oh shoot, I should know this.
Right? You're like a 5th level, right?
Yeah, I'm moving up there. They just kept asking for money, and I keep giving them IOUs.
E-meter.
E-meters, yes, specialized.
According to Hubbard, when thetans, which is the Scientology term for a human being, when thetans die, they go to and I'm making air quotes here, a landing station on the planet Venus, where they are re-implanted and are programmed to forget their previous lifetimes, thus causing amnesia. The Venusians then capsule each thetan and send them back to Earth to be dumped into the ocean off the coast of California, whereupon each thetan searches for a new body to inhabit.
I guess that explains all the thetans that have been washing up on shore lately.
Yeah, there's a beach warning, guys.
Warning, many thetans.
Warning, heavy thetans.
Heavy thetans.
Today is a red flag day. No surfing.
So, this final note about Scientology, to avoid the inconvenience of being dumped off the coast of California, Hubbard advised Scientologists to simply refuse to go to Venus after their death.
Wait, what? It was...
Dude, being a thetan sounds like it sucks.
You just say, like, nah, no thank you.
You get, like, crammed in a volcano and exploded with hydrogen bombs. and you gotta go to
Is this the
Venus.
ship to Venus? Nah.
Nah, that ain't me.
I can't do that. Not today.
So what do
I'm
you do?
good.
What do you do instead? If you don't get on the ship to Venus?
I think you just go, like you don't go to Venus and you just get to keep your memories and just jump in the ocean, I guess.
Sounds awesome.
To bring it all back around to animism, I thought I would end with kind of like the science of animism. There was a particularly interesting passage I read on the article about a physicist named Nick Herbert, who has actually argued for quantum animism, in which the mind permeates the world at every single level. And I'm gonna blow your minds here with a quote from his book Quantum Reality in 1985.
Permeate my mind.
I'm going to permeate your mind. I'm going to blow it. And I'm going to end my section here. The quantum consciousness assumption, which amounts to a kind of quantum animism, likewise asserts that consciousness is an integral part of the physical world, not an emergent property of special biological or computational systems. Since everything in this world is on some level a quantum system, this assumption requires that everything be conscious on that level. If the world is truly quantum animated, then there is an immense amount of invisible inner experience going on all around us that is presently inaccessible to humans, because our inner lives are imprisoned inside a small quantum system, isolated deep in the meat of an animal brain.
The Matrix.
And that's it. That's all I'm going to leave you with.
Okay, thank you for the no follow-up on that. That's some freaky stuff, man.
So animism.
Yeah, animism, precursor to polytheism.
Mm-hmm.
Many anthropologists and religious historians believe that there is a progression of succession to religion that all cultures go through, starting in animism, leading to polytheism, and eventually monotheism.
They start because they first say everything's got a spirit, and then they're like, nah, only like special ones, only
Right.
special spirit, and then guess what? Only the most special spirit.
Only the most special guy.
All right, Jakey.
All right, I want to see if Chris really guessed.
All right, Jakey, big boy.
All right, tell me what you got.
It's Adkins? No.
No,
Is
unfortunately
it
not.
Alexander Graham Bell?
See, that was what I was going to guess, because I heard him say Graham.
No,
earlier.
I tricked you.
Oh,
So,
my God.
Is it Graham Durbells?
It's Graham Durbell.
Graham Durbell.
No, it's Thomas Allenson. So Thomas Allenson, born 1858, died 1918, was a British doctor, dietetic reformer, and businessman. So during his time as a doctor, he was considered a pretty controversial figure because he was pretty liberal, and he also really opposed the use of drugs by doctors. So he was a doctor, and he didn't really believe in the drugs of the day. Which was kind of fair because during the 1800s, a lot of drugs were just placebos or were like totally toxic because they'd give you lead pills and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So over the course of the 1800s, Allenson developed his own theory of medicine, which he called hygienic medicine, and promoted health through diet, exercise, fresh air, and bathing.
Wow.
I know, who would have thought? But at the time, pretty wild stuff.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
When you said that they would give you lead pills, did you mean like they would make you constipated?
Yeah, they push them right up your butt.
Oh, no.
That was the thing. You go to the doctor.
And you say, doctor, please put some lead inside of me.
Right.
Doctor, give me the lead pills.
Give me the lead pills. I need them.
Give me the lead butt.
I gotta get them lead pills.
So, on top of encouraging people to, like, eat well and take a bath, he specifically advocated for vegetarian diets and the avoidance of alcohol, coffee, and tea, and told people not to use tobacco, which he believed was a cause of cancer. And, you know, now we know that that's true.
Right.
But at the time, doctors were prescribing cigarettes to babies, you know, and things like that. So
Yeah, for lack of coolness.
right, it's like that.
Doctor,
baby's not
doctor,
cool
my
enough.
baby's not cool enough.
Get him some cigarettes and some sunglasses, and he'll be fine. Okay, so while he was a doctor, he wrote a large number of books, and the four that most stuck out were a book called A System of Hygienic Medicine, which outlines how to eat well, to exercise, and take a bath. A book called How to Avoid Vaccination. He was, you know, opposed to medicine, so he was opposed to vaccines. So he gave people, you know, tips on how to avoid illnesses that you typically avoid with vaccines. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called A Book for Married Women, which advocated equality between women and men, including the right for women to choose the size of their family and advocating the right for them to use birth control.
Wow, what a progressive
I know,
guy.
this was in the 1880s. It's pretty wild. Then the book that he kind of like based his whole career on was called The Advantage of Wholemeal Bread. So the whole shtick that this guy had was advocating for the consumption of stone-ground whole grain breads, right? Mm-hmm. So his thing was whole grain breads are healthier than white refined grain breads. And he made a career of it. So at the time, people in the medical community were like, this guy doesn't believe in medicine. He's saying that women have rights, and his whole soapbox is bread.
They're like, get him out of here.
They were like, we got to get him out of here. So the Royal College of Physicians was like, we got to get him out of here. And in 1892, he was struck from the medical register, which meant that he wasn't legally allowed to practice medicine.
Wow. Lost his whole license.
Right. So he did not stop practicing medicine. He just kept doing it. And he even claimed that he maintained the largest medical practice in England while he wasn't licensed.
Nice.
So time went on, and during World War I, the food value of whole grain bread was recognized. And they were like, oh, Allinson, I'm really sorry. If you want, you can re-register as a doctor. And he goes, nah. Because the year he got his medical license revoked, he bought a mill, a flour mill.
Oh.
He bought a flour mill, and he started the Natural Food Company, and he founded a bakery called Allinson Breads. And they still make bread to this day.
Oh.
Right. So he was making all these breads and stuff, and he decided not to be a doctor. So, like we said, Allinson was right. Whole grains are great for you.
Dr. Baker.
Dr. Baker.
Dr.
Baker Allinson.
So, whole grains are awesome for you. And we've been doing studies for the last 130 years or whatever, and have found that consumption of whole grains have been linked to a decrease in cardiovascular disease, cancer, and death, and that regular whole grain consumption lowers LDL and triglyceride levels, which reduce your risk of heart disease. And additionally, there's a proven inverse relation to the consumption of whole grain and hypertension, diabetes, and obesity when compared to consumption of other grains. Further, eating whole grains slows or prevents the consumption of starch, and slower digestion is responsible for prevention of spikes in blood sugar, which may lead to insulin resistance. So, just all around, whole grains are great for you. And this
Whole
dude
grains
was
are
saying
great.
it, you know, in 1892. He was writing books about it, and doctors were like, what are you talking about? So, with all of that said, what does it really mean to refine grains, and why do we still do it if whole grains are better, right? Mm-hmm. What's the point? So, what is a whole grain? A whole grain is a cereal grain that contains the germ, endosperm,
It's
and
more
bran.
than a half grain.
It's the whole thing.
It's the whole entire grain.
Heroes and a half grain.
All right. So whole grains are cereal grains that contain the germ, endosperm, and bran of the grain, as opposed to refined grains, which contain only the endosperm. All right, so it's the innermost part of the grain, which makes up most of the mass of the grain. However, it turns out that a lot of the nutrients come from the germ and the bran, which are removed during the process of refining the grains.
Oh, bummer.
So, when you make a refined grain, there's a lot of like mechanical separation that occurs where you remove the germ, you remove the bran, you mix and bleach and add bromine and thiamine and riboflavin and niacin and iron to enrich all of the grains that you just basically ruined through the process. So these minerals are naturally present in whole grains, and they artificially add them back, but it only adds a fraction of what was naturally removed. So refined grains are just worse for you all around. Also, some people say you miss out on fiber because you don't add fiber back during.
What were we thinking with like agriculture when we started?
Right.
Like,
so what's the point, right? Like, why do we refine grains if they're worse for you and they require a lot of work and all that? Why? So refined grains have a finer texture, so that's what you make a lot of flour out of. So that's how you make things that are made from flour: breads, pasta, cereals, cakes, all of those nice things that you like to eat.
If pasta comes from refined grains, they should keep refining grains.
Yes, I agree. Additionally, though, refined grains have a much longer shelf life than whole grains, which was really important in the 1800s because we didn't really have a whole lot of like food preservation ability, right? So, for example, all-purpose white flour can sit in your pantry forever, and the biggest problem you're going to get is like the little mites crawling in and stuff, right? It's not really going to go bad. However, whole wheat flour will go rancid much more quickly because when you crush whole wheat flour, and you crush the germ, it's got oils in it, and that will go rancid and it'll ruin your flour. So if you need to keep your food around, refined grains are the way to go. I know. This is a pretty hot topic.
It's a push and a pull.
Right. So you got to decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to die?
Do I want to be a lazy asshole and have flour on my shelf forever? Or do I want to have a good life?
Right. So in the United States, there are pretty lax standards for how you can advertise your grain products. And many products can be called whole grain, even if less than half of the grain within the product is whole grain.
What?
Right.
Less than half?
Yeah. In fact, there are some products that contain only 1% whole grain, and it says whole grain right on the box.
Wow.
So,
America's cool, guys.
the good news is that in order to get the benefit from eating whole grains, only about half the grains in your diet need to be whole. So, you can eat half whole, half refined. You're going to be fine.
I guess half grain doesn't have the same ring to it, marketing-wise.
It's not, yeah.
Not going to sell a lot of bread.
I can't even imagine what that sticker would look like.
Half grain.
It's just the whole grain sticker ripped in half.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a classy move.
just
That's
says grain.
that's a saving money.
It's
there,
efficient. Yeah, it's efficient too because you create 2 stickers out of
Too.
it.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So if you're looking to get whole grain products, you can identify them by what it says in the box and specifically by what it says in the ingredients. So you can look for phrases like whole wheat, whole millet, cracked wheat, crushed wheat, entire wheat, durum flour, and graham flour. However, this one can be tricky. You don't want to just see graham crackers and assume that that's made of graham flour and that it's whole grain, because there are graham-style crackers. So you want to check the ingredients for graham flour. So
I'm going to do that next time I'm out shopping for graham crackers.
right, look out for those graham-style crackers.
Yeah. What are they trying to pull?
Yeah. So what is graham flour, right? I saw this and I was like, what? So it was invented by an American Presbyterian reverend named Sylvester Graham in the 1820s, which was right around the time that Thomas Allinson was hawking his wholemeal bread idea in
Right.
England, right? So Graham he didn't like the process of making white flour and white bread and believed that the process of separating the German brand from the grain made it worse for you. And he was right. He also believed that whole grains were a remedy for the poor health of Americans brought on by changes in diet during the Industrial Revolution. So everyone's like working all these factory jobs and they're eating like garbage and everyone's getting sick. So he thought, you eat whole grains, everything is going to be fine. So what graham flour specifically is a whole grain flour that's made by grinding the endosperm separately from the German bran and then mixing them back together instead of just crushing it all at once. So you can sort of determine how much German bran you want in, so you can, stylize your graham flour.
Yeah, custom flour.
Stylize your
It's
graham
an
flour.
artisan flour.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he was kind of a Puritan, Sylvester Graham was. And when he was inventing graham crackers, they were originally really mild and not sweet. So the graham crackers that you know today with like the honey and the sugar and stuff, that's not what they were about. They were pretty terrible.
A little segue here. As a child, I actually ate graham crackers for breakfast. Like I would eat a full, I'm talking like 6th grade, 7th grade.
Like a stack of them?
Oh yeah, I would, that would be my breakfast. Instead of cereal, I would literally eat a pack of graham crackers and just dip them in milk. Like that was my...
Wait, that's not how anything works.
That was
Addendum
my breakfast.
to
yeah.
that story. I was doing that once upon a time, dipping graham crackers in milk. And I told my mom, I was like, man, this is really good. They should make a cereal out of this. And she said they do. It's called Golden Grams.
Oh, yeah.
Got me, Mom.
Got me.
All right.
As a child, I used to make s'mores in the morning and then dip those in milk.
That's not true.
the
That's
chocolate
not true.
and
I just
not
wanted
true.
to fit in.
All right. Anyway,
As Chris cries in the background, he
It's
mutes
fine.
his mic
It's
and cries.
fine.
it's okay. So Reverend Graham also created the graham cracker to be part of the Graham diet. So he invented his own diet.
This guy sounds like more and more of an asshole the more you talk about him.
Well, hold on. Buckle in, bad boy.
I am.
So this is a diet that consisted mainly of fresh fruits, vegetables, whole wheat, and high fiber foods,
That's not so bad.
while excluding all meat and all spices.
Oh, that's so bad.
Right. So you could eat very fresh milk, cheese, and eggs in moderation, but butter was to be used very sparingly.
Oh.
Right? Diet sounds like it sucks.
No, it's terrible.
So he believed that adhering to this diet would prevent people from having impure thoughts and would stop people from masturbating, which he believed was a catalyst for blindness and early death. So he was like, I'm going to make this diet, I'm going to make these crackers, and everyone's going to quit jagging it.
Don't.
This is the cornflake guy, isn't it?
I didn't see that in his bio.
Oh, I've like heard this before, and I attributed it to cornflakes. But I also think I have some like misinformation, because I remember at one point in my life believing that cornflakes were originally not for eating, but you would spread them under the sheet of your children's bed so you could hear them masturbating and catch them.
What?
Yeah, that sounds probably not like real life.
I
but
want it to be true, though.
I know, I wanted so badly for that to be real life.
So don't eat butter. Don't eat meat.
No spices.
It excites the loins.
So, Graham had a disciple named David Campbell who was the head of a college during the 1830s called Oberlin College. And he forced the Graham diet on all of the students and faculty at the school, right? So, what quote-unquote rebellious students did was eat off campus. And allegedly, there was a professor who was fired for refusing to stop bringing pepper to school to season his own meals. Then in 1941, the diet was dropped due to public outcry because people wanted to eat pepper on their food.
Yeah, they said, stop it, guy.
And that's it.
Give us our pepper back.
Thomas Allenson and Sylvester Graham figuring out that whole grain is the way to go.
Yeah, but like one of them was like a baller and then one of them was a tyrant.
Right. That's it.
It's just another situation that shows us that England is a little bit better than us.
Do you think so?
Yeah, right? Wasn't that one guy from England?
Yeah, Allenson was from England.
Yeah.
Graham was from America.
It was like a Puritan.
Yeah, let's be honest. Most of the smart stuff comes from England first.
This is like The Office, like The Great British Bake Off.
Which includes whole grain.
Yeah, they got it in there.
Yeah.
They got all those germs and sperms.
All right.
They should call that show the Germs and Sperms Show.
I don't want to watch that show.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
All right, Jake, take us out.
Take us out. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. Feel free to like us on Facebook at Wiki Wiki What Podcast. Follow and retweet us on Twitter at _Wiki Wiki What. Visit our website at wikiwikiwhatpodcast.com or send us feedback or suggestions at wikiwikiwhat@gmail.com. Oh, I messed that up. wikiwikiwhatpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we're really excited to be doing this. Kind of it's our first foray into sort of the podcast world. So please, do everything you can to spread the word. We're hoping to put out an episode at least every 2 weeks. We might increase that if we find the time. But our next episode will obviously focus on topics that start with the letter B.
Yeah, B's after A.
B is after A.
That's how the alphabet works. So, once more, just thank you, everyone, for listening. And, hey, it's 3 a.m. Stop reading Wikipedia and go to bed.